Hello everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here today. We're taking a look at LRC, which is Loopring. I've covered this a few times in the past. Thanks to my community members for asking that I cover this. Appreciate you reaching out and letting me know here today. Now, moving forward, I'm not a financial advisor, just so you know if you're new to the channel. I do this for educational purposes only. I want to make sure that you are a better trader, more well-informed trader, and you can trade for a lifetime, not just for one day. I don't want you to be reliant on me. I try to teach as much as I can in these videos, but the bottom line here is that you need to do your own research and you should take ownership of your own trades, right? It's no one else's fault. Be careful, be smart. That being said, I have a Signal group where I share my trades with my community members. Feel free to check that out down below. I provide profit targets, stop loss targets, as well as entry points, so we can kind of follow along. I'm trending at about 80% right now. Moving forward, I also have a Telegram community. Check that out in your own time as well, because that is a good group of folks, 600 plus so far, and everyone is able to communicate openly and collaborate, and we can all learn and grow together as well, right? So that's the whole purpose here. Hopefully, you find benefit here today. So thanks again for listening to me ramble here. Without further ado, let's just check out the charts. Let's get to it. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at LRC, which is Loopring. And obviously, we're going to take a look at Bitcoin, Ethereum first. If you're new to the channel, always look at that, because you have to be a well-informed trader in order to make a well-informed decision, right? And if you don't know what Bitcoin's doing, then you're just kind of blindly, arbitrarily gambling and throwing meat against the wall, hoping it sticks, right? It doesn't necessarily work all the time. You might get lucky sometimes, but I don't think luck has anything to do with cryptocurrency. At least it shouldn't, right? Obviously, there's some involved, but you don't want to base it on that. Regardless, enough about that. I'm using TradingView.com desktop application. This is a paid version where I have multiple indicators present. Recommend you check that out as well. I have a link in the description below for like a free month to see if you like it. So if you follow along, I use more than one indicator, so it might be a little easier for you to consider that. Take a look in your own time. But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the 4-hour chart for Bitcoin. And just note, I use the 50-day simple moving average and the 200-day simple moving average. Others use the exponential. I prefer the simple, just based on larger time frames. Makes a lot more sense. It's worked out favorably for me in the past, much more than the exponential. Regardless, that doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's just my preference. And as you can see right now, the 50 is working as a support level, as well as the 200 just trailing behind. Price just got a leg up here. In fact, that was like maybe an hour or two ago. It jumped from 46.5 to 47.5, 47.7. But we have a major support and resistance level here at 46,500, and that will likely be the new support. Okay, so what I'm hoping for is the price to kind of dip back down closer to 46.5, take entry at that point, go long to 50. Regardless, near here, if you look at 44,200, that was the most recent support level. So if we do lose support at 46.5, we'll see 44.2 as a secondary support, as well as a tertiary support at 42,500. So all in all, Bitcoin's looking pretty good. Just keep in mind, there's really no major resistance levels yet, unless they are created between here and 51,000. So it's kind of open season right now. So you could effectively go long and be pretty safe right now, considering the fact we have a decent amount of support below us, right? And again, the 50 is trailing. That could very well work as a strong support level too. We'll know when we get there, but that is the state of the union for Bitcoin. I'd like to just kind of say the same thing for Ethereum. So whatever I just said for Ethereum, or for Bitcoin for Ethereum, because honestly, it's just one of those things where we got major support levels, very similar in a sense, where it's kind of got a lot of the same movement. Price bounced off the 50 there that held as a support. We have a support level at 2,900. It was previously tested about 10 times. Now recently only tested twice as a support, so it's in pretty good shape there. If we lose that support, we got 2,400 as another. And just note also that we're right at about 35, 3,600. 35 to 3,600 is the next major resistance for Ethereum. So just keep in mind, if we keep shooting upwards here, to infinity and beyond, we're going to see here in a couple $100 for Ethereum that we might be testing a resistance up. Moving on to LRC, let's take a look at the one-day chart. And I always like to look at two things: the moving averages, of course, to kind of see how they're working as support and resistance levels, and obviously too how LRC responds to Bitcoin sell-offs. Right, so if we look back here, April 17th, it's pretty easy to pick out of a hat, right? You just got that, just pick one of the long candlesticks. It's either that or May 18th. This is the first major sell-off from Bitcoin. And of course, there was a secondary there. Drove the price down. The price ramped up here. This is actually an Elon candle, surprisingly. So LRC is, highly responded to fake news, or, well, it's not fake, don't get me wrong, but really Tesla not accepting Bitcoin, does that matter? It shouldn't, but it did, and it drove the price down. And then same here as well for May 19th. Obviously, that's a China candle. So LRC is essentially very reliant on Bitcoin in that sense, whereas it responds to Bitcoin movement. More importantly, it responds to Bitcoin sell-offs, like kind of a knee-jerk reaction. But before all of that, we can see the price action was somewhere in the range of 0.45, basically 45 cents upwards of 75 cents. So at 45 to 75 cent, you got that 30-cent range, which is its average true range before the sell-off. Because remember back here, 50 to 60,000 for Bitcoin. Now right here, which is interesting, we're at like 46, 47,000 for Bitcoin, and LRC is finally taking off. So there's a bit of a lag there, which means that there is likelihood of LRC still continuing this pattern. So I like to identify that early. Also forget to mention here, not really super relevant because it's pretty obvious, but the 50 is working as a support level, and the 200s of potential resistance. And coincidentally, look at that, it's right at 44 cents. That's pretty much the average true range there for LRC. So if you're going to mark anything, that would probably be one of the major, things to shoot for. Once you get into 44 cent plus range, you're back in that range, and we're going to have to assume that Bitcoin will be in the 50 to 60,000 range, right? That's kind of the concept there. So moving on to the RSI, up over 70, big surprise, but it's just peaking over 70. Doesn't mean we want to sell, right? Because anytime the RSI is up over 70, it's just an indication of paying closer attention to your profit, right? You might want to move up your stop loss, something to that effect. Or if you're just on a short-term trade and you're 10, 20% into your profit, just say you got your 18% out of the day, take your profits, call it a day, wait for it to retrace, and invest again, okay? Because again, Bitcoin did just ramped up a good, I got I don't know, was that a full 1,000, I think it was? And in that sense, it's probably gonna have to go sideways for a little bit longer before it legs up again. Or it'll probably retrace back down to 46,000 by the dip, right? Kind of that whole rinse and repeat action. So looking back at July 22nd, no surprise, that's when Bitcoin obviously ramped back up from sub 30,000 to about 31, 32. Looking at the 4-hour chart, basically very similar scenario here, but I do like this increase in price, just the flow here. You can see it's kind of an up-down pattern. A lot of bull runs will be kind of like up and over. In other words, do one of these. This one isn't quite doing that. It's basically, instead of consolidating, it's retracing. Because again, the reason why that happens is because it's highly reliant on Bitcoin, right? So it's almost exponential the way that it goes down. So if we saw that from before, it moved down much larger than most other altcoins. I mean, even the Elon candle on the 12th of May, it had a significant retracement. So that being said, we can pretty much guarantee the fact that these little retracements here are just simple retracements from Bitcoin. Watch, we come back here, like retracement here, retracement there. Right here, we got a retracement there, a small retracement from Bitcoin, and a big one from LRC, right? So be wary of that. If you're in the green, that's why right here at this point, if you've got some profits, take your profits, let it go ahead and retrace back down, because Bitcoin should retrace soon. If it does, then LRC will do as well. Just note that LRC is probably going to do one of these, and then it might go up again, right? So in crypto, if you haven't learned this already, history tends to repeat itself, right? So patterns will repeat themselves more consistently than traditional trading. So just bear that in mind. We see a common trend here, peaks and valleys. We might just see a valley here soon. All right, so just something to note, RSI is over 70, big surprise there. We had a convergence on the MACD at approximately 5 a.m. here today. That is 5 a.m. Pacific. I like to mark that really quick so we can kind of identify if the Ishimoku cloud is communicating with the MACD on the 4-hour. So we said August 13th at 5 a.m. right here. All right, cool. So if you're new to the cloud, I'm sorry. I mean that in a good way, right? Like, you should be using it. It's a very effective tool. It's probably one of the top 3 most important swing trader tools you could utilize. So the 4-hour chart, MACD, big time. We just looked at that. We marked that here. In fact, that's what this looks like here. So that's when the MACD swung upwards and gave us a buy signal to go long. We look at the Ishimoku cloud, it also gives us buy signals to go long. Look at that, it forecasted it by 4 hours. So 4 hours before the MACD converged, the Ishimoku cloud is telling us we've got a buy signal. And if you're new to the channel or just new to Ishimoku Cloud, simply put, when the price action breaks above the cloud, considered a buy signal. Breaks below, it's considered a sell signal. This would have been a terrible short position considering the momentum. And as you can see, kind of the same thing keeps following suit here. So had you invested here, you would have got a decent percent. Obviously the same thing here just a moment ago. All right, so just something to note. I like to identify that and just kind of look, because anytime looking for a good entry point, when you see the MACD swinging upwards, it just tells you the momentum is shifting from bearish to bullish. And the same thing with the divergence too. The MACD goes down if you're trying to short, then obviously it's the same thing. But most of us would like longer positions than short positions, because honestly shorting is more risky. Looking here again at the MACD, well, this doesn't really matter. Scratch that. We're on the 1 hour chart. That doesn't matter. Again, Ishimoku Cloud on the 1 hour chart. And also, that brings us to the next one here, TD sequential. So if you're new to the TD sequential, holy crap, look at that. What it does is it basically tells us when we have exhaustion, right? So traditionally, when you look at the TD sequential, it's going to tell us that, after 9 hours or 9 bars, 9 candle bars, or candlesticks rather, sorry, I call them bars, apologize. 9 candlesticks, you basically have a continuation for that long. And then once it hits 9 hours, or just say 9 candles worth on any chart, really, for the most part, above 1 hour, you will have commonly a retracement. So what should have happened here is when this MACD converged, since there was momentum, it kept going up. But what should have happened here normally, according to TD sequential, is we should have seen the price come down, right? So we should have seen about approximately 9 hours of retracement, and then the price comes back up again. Keep that in mind, since it didn't retrace back then, which is fine. It's all well and good in this bull run. With the price having hiked up right here, you can see we're still in overtime. So the probability of LRC continuing up right now is pretty low, just based on the fact that we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We are 12 hours into overtime, essentially, in this bullish momentous trend, which is, again, all well and good. Those things do happen, but a bull run should only last no more than just say 8 to 12 hours, and we're at like 20 hours right now. So just keep that in mind. If you're planning to invest, wait for it to retrace first before you do that. Let it do one of these before you invest. Okay, just something to consider. Again, it could take off. You never truly know, but for the most part, that's how things happen in crypto. So that's the 1 hour chart. Moving on to the 15, we'll just quickly identify the the EMA and VWAP lines. And again, I'll just repeat this here if you are new to the channel. I'm sorry if you've heard this a million times. I do repeat this quite often, but I think it's relevant and important to know, because when you work your way down from the 1 day chart all the way down to the 15-minute, if you do it correctly, this is like the icing on the cake. This is the last thing you need to know to kind of complete the puzzle. So we've already identified we're above the cloud. We had a MACD convergence, and the price is likely going to retrace back down. We're in overtime. So looking at this here, we want to see if we have any buy signals. Technically, we are seeing buy signals here on the 15-minute chart because it's still pushing, right? And what I'm referring to that is the fact that we have the VWAP, which is the volume weighted average price, takes the volume last 24 hours, expressed as a price. And right now, according to the VWAP, the price should be 32 cents. Instead, it's 34 cents almost. Now, that's a standard deviation of approximately 5%. So it's not terrible. That's actually good. Anything under 10 is a good thing. That being said, we're in pretty good shape here, whereas it's not too large of a variation, right? Or deviation, of course. Now, when it comes to the EMA, that's the EMA 15 here. That's the one I use in the 15-minute chart. It's most effective. The default is 9 and 20. Why have 2 indicators when you can have one that works better? That's just my thoughts here. So when the price, as you can kind of see here, when the price comes down, it bounces off EMA and VWAP and continues upwards. That's when we had this same bullish momentous trend indicating the 4-hour chart on the MACD, and of course, a few hours earlier, Ishimoku Cloud. So what I'm getting at here is that when the price is over EMA and VWAP, that's a strong consideration of taking entry, especially when you see the price get rejected off EMA and VWAP. That's also another confirmation. And this little yellow caret here, if you see that little yellow up arrow, that's basically my notification that I have here that I share with my patrons that tells us we have a buy signal. And just to clarify too, if you're new to the channel as well, I do have a Patreon account where I share all of my trades with my community members, and I provide profit targets, sell stop targets, as well as entry points even before I take entry, so you kind of know and you can follow along. I have about an 80% success rate, so check that out in your own time, but this actually helps me a lot because it tells me at this point that we have a potential buy signal. So I do want to consider going long here based on the fact that we have 30 minutes of confirmation over EMA and VWAP. And what I mean by that is, imagine trying to swim in the river, right? Swimming upstream is a lot more work than just floating downstream, right? So when you take entry, why fight the current? Why try to buy the dip? Why try to do all that when there's no decision on the bulls versus bears, right? They're constantly fighting it out. That's when you see those states of consolidation. When you look at this here and you see the price increasing above EMA, then it's a good indication that the bulls are in control. So price over the red line, bulls are in control. Price over the blue line, this is considered a support and resistance level. So we've got two forms of support, and also 30 minutes knowing that in this 30-minute period, the bulls are in complete control. And that's why you take entry. That's where you find it. So, honestly, I bet you anything, if you look back here, we've got same signals here. Price over EMA, price over VWAP, and you can tell this would have been a good entry point as well. That's right where the Ishimoku cloud was kind of warning us and telling us to get it. So again, these are just all little things that I look for, and I'm constantly scanning the markets weekly. I have indicators set up based on how the market is moving, and when I get these notifications, I go ahead and do my check, work my way from top to bottom after looking at Bitcoin first, and then we have make an informed decision, right? Again, there's no guarantees in this industry, but don't gamble with your money, right? Use good risk tolerance, be careful, be smart, and heaven forbid you're in the green like right now. If you are up 20% in your day, you better take your profit, or you better move your stop loss to a profitable target area and don't get greedy. All right. Anyways, enough rambling for me. I hope you found this beneficial. Please consider referencing my Telegram community or just, subscribing if you haven't already. Thank you to my current subscribers and patrons. Love you very much. You're all so awesome. So hope you have a good rest of your day. We'll see you in the next video, right? Take care. Thank you.